What's up, everybody? Hey, Tom Laird here, host of the Advice from a Call Center Geek podcast and founder of Expivia. For exceptional contact center outsourcing, trust Expivia. We're fully AI-driven, as all of you know, and can handle voice, email, chat, and all of your digital channels. Our 600-seat USA contact center is expert in healthcare, financial services, insurance, tech support, retail, and more. Experts on the NICE CX1 platform, we ensure seamless customer experiences. DM me or visit expiviausa.com for more.
This is Advice from a Call Center Geek, a weekly podcast with a focus on all things call center. We'll cover it all from call center operations, hiring, culture, technology, and education. We're here to give you actionable items to improve the quality of yours and your customers' experience. This is an evolving industry with creative minds and ambitious people like this guy. Not only is his passion call center operations, but he's our host. He's the CEO of Expivia Interaction Marketing Group and the Call Center Geek himself, Tom Laird.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the call center and contact center podcast. We try to give you some actionable items to take back in your contact center, improve the overall quality, improve your agent experience, hopefully improve the customer experience as well. My name is Tom Laird. I'm the CEO here at Expivia Interaction Marketing. How's everybody doing? It is cold here in northwestern PA. I love to give my my weather update. I wanted to get into some things. I'm getting a lot of leads, which is awesome for people that are looking to move their contact center either to the cloud, move to another platform, and are asking for some help from a consulting side. And the cool thing is, I've even talked to a couple companies that are setting up their contact center for the first time, or maybe they had just one channel. They were a startup. They did email or just a form to do their customer support, but now they want to roll out and start to do a full meal deal contact center, with that 10 to 20 reps. So really cool stuff that I like to kind of think about and kind of go back to even when we started and some of the things because again, as most of you guys know, we started as a startup. So there was a lot of pitfalls and things, moving from a premise-based device, which was, robust, and we had thousands of agents on it, to now moving to the cloud when we didn't really know what we were doing, 12, 15, 14 years ago, in learning and kind of seeing the growth of the cloud. And then what are some of the things that I think are really good and really not. So what I wanted to do today is talk about how you can set up a contact center, right? Kind of on the cheap, but still high end. Like, I know that's kind of an oxymoron, right? So what are we're just looking at the absolute things that you should spend your money on, and then some other things that you don't need to spend your money on that might be a little bit more of a pain in the rear, but you can definitely utilize some other tools that maybe are free, right? To get through, to get where you need to be. So when you're first starting out, what should you spend your money on? What are some of the things that are absolute you have to have if you want to be high end, if you want to be able to service customers the way that they need to be serviced, but still don't need all the bells and whistles, right, to totally blow your budget out of the water. So, there's a couple things here. Let's kind of get into this list. I think it's kind of cool. So for me, there are so many good cloud telephony providers out there, right, that we could go down the list, right? From the real high end kind of enterprise guys to, a lot of these like newer companies that, and we say newer, it's probably 5 years old, that are doing a really, really good work. And they have easy to use platforms. So you don't need the programmer. You don't need that giant staff. You can get some basic training and take these platforms, to really cool levels. So I still think that there's no excuse not to be fully omni-channel and move to the cloud, because you're paying per seat, right? You're not having a huge expense, moving forward if you're looking to scale and where you are now. So it's kind of pay as you go. So I would get, and that's the number one thing I would spend my money on, is I would get a platform that has everything that I need now, and then roadmap it out to some of the things that you're going to need in the future too. Maybe you can't, you don't want speech analytics. You don't need workforce management. We're going to talk about all that stuff. But maybe if you grow your company from, or the company grows and your internal center goes from 20 to 150 seats, you want to make sure that those tools are available to you, maybe on the platform, or at least understand in your head how you're going to integrate them. So I would say the first things that you need to kind of make sure that you're spending your money on is a full omni-channel tight platform. Understand the expertise that you have in-house. Do you need somebody, from a professional services or from a third party to help you and understand that when you're kind of doing that, right? And you're choosing your platform. So that can all be rolled in. The other thing that goes with this is, what CRM are you using? Are you brand new and you don't have a CRM? Then maybe there's some easy off-the-shelf things. And when I say easy, they've just done a good job building out. Doesn't mean the platforms aren't robust, but the Zohos, the Zendesks, and then getting to that enterprise kind of Salesforce, living in that world as well. So those are some things that, again, if you're spending your money on, your blocking and tackling is your CRM. Anything off the shelf, you can easily integrate into your platform. Make sure that you have that ability, and then full omni-channel. The other thing you need to think about that a lot of us don't think about is again, and I know I kind of just said this a little earlier, is what expertise do you have in house? Because there's a lot of things that you need to think about, right? So everything, and I wrote some things down from porting numbers, routing calls, using the IVR. Using the IVR not just as an auto attendant, but maybe from a self-service in a self-service model, integrating your CRMs or integrating any third-party data into your platform. Setting up virtual callbacks, which today is pretty darn easy. Even recording messages, right? Recording the IVR, you got to think that stuff through, and if there's any kind of PCI or HIPAA compliance things that you need to kind of handle. I think that those are some things to make sure you think about when you're choosing the platform. And again, that's where you need to spend your money. That needs to be the number one kind of deal. The second thing I see a lot of kind of newer companies, or even from the contact center side, and mostly if you are an internal call center, the company has their own HR. But if you're a BPO or you are just starting up something, from an HR standpoint, I think that there's some things that you need to kind of look at. We use Bamboo HR, right, for ours. So there's a lot of cloud providers from an HR standpoint that you can do very cheap, and it's kind of pay on the go, right? So if you have the agent, you're going to pay for them. If you don't, then you don't pay for it. I think that's really, really important, and something from a policy and procedure standpoint. Even if you have your HR set up, the contact center policies and procedures are different, right, than financial controller or your finance department or your sales or your marketing. Right. There's certain things that apply directly just to contact centers that you need to make sure, if you're just starting out, that you have these policies, right? What are the attendance policies? What are some of your work from home policies? Maybe that does tie into your internal. Talking about things like after call work, and we have gotten into a big discussions of, because we kind of force after call work and we force availability. For our agents to go back available, where a lot of people, they think that that's undermining the rep or something. I don't know. Where I'm just trying to give them, if we don't have a lot of wrap up or wrap time or after call work, to give them a breath. But so thinking all that stuff through, and as I'm saying that, do you think you would be able to handle that with the talent that you have in-house, or do you need a professional services? Because there's a lot of people that will handle that. But again, that's a little bit more money. These next things, I don't think you need a platform for, right? When we talk about scheduling and workforce management, right? For me, it's in that 50 to 75 reps and higher that I think you need to start thinking about workforce management. If you're 50 reps or under, I think you can use an erlang-c calculator, right? We have one on expiviausa.com. callcenterhelper.com has a really good one. You can just Google erlang-c. You can find it, and that erlang-c calculator will help you forecast calls, or I should say forecast your staffing, right, with the calls that that you have coming in. If you don't know your calls, then it does become a little bit more difficult, but I think you can estimate based on some what your email is and those types of things to kind of come up with a number, at least to start with. And as you start getting your calls in, using that calculator to staff your intervals appropriately. And, when we were first starting out, so this was, again, 10, 15 years ago, we used that a lot. And that's kind of why I put it on the website, because I thought it helped me a ton when we were smaller. Now we have, the nice CX1 WFM platform, and it's got all the forecasting, all the bells and whistles. But I don't think you need that, especially if you're smaller. You can handle an Excel spreadsheet and an erlang-c calculator. I think you're totally fine. From a QA standpoint, a lot of this is Google Sheets or Excel or Word are your best friends. We also utilize Monday.com, right, for a lot of our checklists for our supervisors, for anything from our QA. You can utilize it for QA. We have the nice CX1 QA platform, but you can set up all the different things that will keep it as a database. So if you have a rep and you have a scoring form, you can score them on a Monday.com. You can just score them in Excel, right? But sometimes it can be a little bit weird when you start doing a ton of different tabs. But again, you don't need to have the robust QA platform. If any omni-channel platform that you get is going to have call recording, you're going to be able to record calls. If you have your own scoring mechanism, you can score calls using Excel. You can score calls using a third-party platform. You don't have to go out and get that robust platform, especially, again, if you're under 50 seats. I think you can save a lot of money, and I would prefer you to beef up your platform than to go out and kind of get some of the QA stuff that I think you can handle there. And again, that's with the QA, it's the coaching tools too. So maybe even outside of QA, if you're doing your agent analysis, if you're pulling reps once a week and just having a talk, right? Keeping them at that in Excel, having an agent tab for each of those that kind of continues, you can definitely do. It might be a little bit, wonky. I keep using that word. I probably shouldn't, but there's also other tools like third-party tools that you can utilize as well. There's so many things out there internet-wise that I think even now, because I have not looked in so long because of, the platforms that we have internally. But again, the bottom line is, when it comes to QA, when it comes to workforce management, when it comes to coaching, you don't have to have a huge, don't make it the excuse like we don't have anything to do that, right? Because everybody has Word, everybody has Excel, everybody has Google Sheets or a Google Doc. And you can definitely do that even with a Google form. Make sure that you can help and handle your QA. I just want to go back to to the HR thing as well. Is making sure that you do have the right policies for your organization. I think it's really, really important that you look at the culture of your organization. For us, now everybody's work from home, so there's no dress code. But before, when we were internal, and I know everybody pushes back on this, we did have a dress code, right? We in the organization, we work for a lot of financial services companies. So we said that, we probably give out more loans and credit cards than a banker does in a day, right? So we wanted to have our reps kind of have that mentality of, this is really, really important stuff that you're doing. And, we've kind of gone away from that. Listen, I was a suit guy and look at me. I mean, this is for me that I'm really slumming it, but every single day, wore a suit or at least a shirt and a tie. And now I'm kind of here. So again, I think that's, really the basic kind of deal. I just did a TikTok too on porting numbers, right? When you're starting up, porting numbers can be a real pain in the rear, right? Porting numbers basically means, you have maybe a 1-800 number that you have internally. And if you're giving it to another like third party, an outsourcer, or an outsourcer is giving you a number, you want to own and have that number on your actual platform. You got to make sure you dot the T's and dot the I's and cross the T's for sure. Because anything that you have wrong on there, they will push back because those carriers do not want to lose their number and they don't want to lose the billing on that number. So just a kind of little quick tip on that. Again, routing calls, think that through. Do we need an IVR? Do we need a self-service deal? Can we just use it for kind of an auto attendant? If that, you probably don't need a professional services. It's pretty easy. Integrations. If you're using the Zoho and the Zendesk and you have a cloud, if you have a cloud telephony, anything cloud, they're going to very easily be able to integrate with, right? So your CRM, think that through. If you have a proprietary CRM, it should not be that big of a deal, but you're going to have to do a little API programming to kind of get that through. Again, virtual callbacks, I think every platform now has it. Everybody should be utilizing it. I think that's just as important as, like an IVR. Like it's just like it just rolls off your tongue. It should be something that everybody has, and it's not should we get that? It should be just it's part of our deal now. It's part of how we live our call center lives. Think about your messaging. Who wants to be the voice of your brand, right? From an IVR standpoint, and again, looking at PCI and some HIPAA things when it comes to what platforms you have. So I guess the bottom line here is, to boil this down, is spend your money on your technology when it comes to the blocking and tackling, your CRM, your omnichannel. The things that you do not have to have if you're a smaller contact center, is workforce management, some type of robust QA, making sure that you don't need any type of coaching. Those are all cool things to have. Speech analytics, you don't need to have that to, I think, have a world-class center. If you have your service levels, you know what your average handle time, you can benchmark all of that stuff. You can utilize other free tools to kind of do the record keeping of it. You can use calculators that are online from an erlang-c to do your workforce management and your scheduling. So again, from an HR standpoint, make sure your policies, procedures are in order. From an omnichannel standpoint, make sure that you can handle and you can be omnichannel, that you can integrate with your CRM. And then thinking through, do we need professional services? Can we handle a lot of this stuff internally? Those are some of the things that I would definitely be thinking about when it comes to not only the platform that you choose, but setting something up as well. Yeah, and so there's Nathan here, just says he rarely gets a virtual callback when calling big companies, and I agree. I think it's becoming more and more prevalent. Every single client that we have, every single skill that we have has a virtual callback. Even if we have a 90-10 SLA adherence and every day we're above 84%, you never know when that spike's going to come. You never know. We've seen a lot of weird stuff where a company, maybe they made a mistake and they send out this 200,000 or 4 million pieces of email that accidentally gets sent out, and it has the phone number for our customer service center, and so we just get absolutely bombarded. And having those kind of things, I think, can really help, at least from the customer experience, and just dealing with, obviously people not getting ticked off because they're waiting for a half hour or longer. A lot of times why you will see people not use virtual callbacks is because they're in such heavy queues that it won't make a difference. So I would see the airlines, like internet, those kind of things that have a reputation for huge queues. So what would happen is even if if it's noon and everybody from noon on left a virtual callback, because so many people called, right? They would never even get through all those calls until, let's say they close at 10 o'clock at night. They wouldn't even be through the noon ones. So everybody would just kind of, it wouldn't do any benefit. It would probably tick people off even more, just because the volume is so massive that the virtual callback wouldn't really work. And then the question was, what hold time do you enable the virtual callback? So it's a little bit different for each client. For us, but we normally do it about the 2 minute and 30-second mark. And then depending on what the client wants, we will play that, every minute 30 or every 2 minutes after. Sometimes the client will say, no, hey, we just want it one time and that's it. So I think it does matter what your queues are. We don't really have anything that we ever go really heavy into queue with, because, hopefully we have things staffed appropriately. But, if we ever did have real heavy queues, I would put it back a little bit further. I probably use some analytics to see how long people are starting to get ticked off when they hold. But I would probably do that, or maybe I wouldn't go more than 5 minutes. But I think for us, it's been about the 2 minute mark. That 2 minutes, 2:30 has been kind of the sweet spot for us on the virtual callbacks. And then on average, I would say, a customer would wait, if we're into that kind of queue, probably 6 or 7 minutes, after that to kind of reach a callback. And again, these are only on really special days, like the day after Christmas, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Those kind of things where, again, or if something went wrong with the company from a marketing standpoint, and again, like I said, they send giant emails out, or there's something, going on with that. So yeah, I think that's about what we would do in the timing of how long that would be. Well, you know what? Let me get back. Here's another question. Can I briefly explain shrinkage in the erlang-c calculator and it's important? So yeah. So when you talk about shrinkage, you're basically coming into play with, people who are PTO, people that go talk to HR, people that are on break, people that are on lunch, right? All the reps that are there, but they're not actually taking calls, right? So, you can't, it's not a black and white thing, right? Just saying, okay, we need 10 reps scheduled from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock at night, and every interval is totally, let's just play this game. Every interval is totally perfect. We just need 10 agents. Well, that's great that you need 10, but you can't just schedule 10 because we're human beings, right? And some people are going to, you might have 2 or 3 people off at lunch at one point. You might have, again, 2 people that need to go see HR. You may have, you're going to have breaks every single hour. Maybe 3 intervals out of every hour. There's another break. So you have all this stuff like, oh my gosh, well, how do I account for that? And the best way to account for it is to, have a shrinkage percentage, right? Whether that is, 10%, 15%, 20%, based on, for us, the biggest thing for shrinkage, right, is call-offs and call-outs, right? And accounting for that. Because the other stuff too, we can manipulate during the day when we can play with things and say, hey, I know you're scheduled for lunch, but can you give me like 15 more minutes because we have 30 calls in queue and I got 4 reps coming back. And if you can wait, we can play those games. And WFM can kind of ask and do those kind of things too, but overall for what we do is we take about a 15% shrinkage number, right? So again, and I always kind of screw this math up, but if we need 10 reps, right, we're going to go about 15% over that, right? So maybe have roughly 1.5, 2 reps, depending on the intervals over that, right? So we'll schedule, maybe 12, something like that, right? To make sure that we're at 10, right? For all those intervals. And if this just comes really into play when you're really, really trying to get a SLA adherence, right? If you don't really care about your SLAs, which everybody should, but I know some companies are like, whatever. If we have a couple of reps off, we have a couple of reps off. Like for me, I can't do that. I'm contractually obligated to hit a 80-30 or a 90-10 or a 71-20 or whatever that is. So we know for different programs, different projects, how long reps have been here. Like it's all these numbers are played into our WFM platform. And then we know what our historical shrinkage is for each program, and it automatically calculates that in. If you're just using the erlang-c, you got to start with something, 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever that number is, put that into there so it schedules kind of over that, and then you kind of tweak it from there based on kind of what you've seen from a historical standpoint. So, yeah, the bottom line is shrinkage should be like it's almost like taking into account the human element of all of us, right? We're not robots. We can't work. We can't come to work every possible single day. We can't work every single thing perfectly. We have to go to the bathroom. We have to take breaks. We have to talk to HR. We have to get trained. We have to get educated. And it's basically taking those kind of off the phone, instances and making sure that you're still staffed appropriately. It's a really good question. I know it confuses. It's a little confusing. And, a lot of people get the shrinkage and kind of occupancy kind of confused as well, because the occupancy then goes kind of to the flip side where shrinkage is kind of taking into account if reps are not there, right? And how do we account for that? Make sure that we're staffed appropriately. Occupancy is making sure that we're not keeping them there too long, right? So we're making sure that, if we're not having reps work and speak and talk like 55 minutes out of the hour and totally burning them out, right? And this kind of goes back into my after call work deal that's been going on LinkedIn that we've been discussing of putting people automatically back in available, or letting them manually go back in available, understanding that they need breaks. We want to have our occupancy be about 75% or about 45 minutes out of the hour, kind of in a working state, and then tweaking kind of after call work from there to make sure, again, that we're not burning anybody out. Again, we're talking about human beings here. And they have a job to do, but they have to breathe and be able to kind of just take a second as well. So, yeah, good questions. I appreciate that, guys. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I hope that was of value to you and kind of thinking through maybe even some of the things you're looking to purchase in 2023 from a telephony standpoint. Thinking of those things as budgets get tighter, as maybe if we are in an economic downturn, some of the things that to look to purchase, but there's a lot of things I think you can do. I don't want to even say on the cheap, but maybe it takes a little bit more work, but it's definitely more cost effective for sure. So again, thank you guys very much. And I will talk to all of you next week.